This story is a family portrait. It began when I, as a young boy, would ride in the backseat of a car with my Uncle Joe as he was returned to the state institution where he lived. Joe would tell me stories in these trips. His voice was a whisper of what it is today, so I'd have to lean towards him to hear. But when I did, I would get vivid details of his life and his past. There was a passion hidden in this man who was told how to dress, told when to eat, told when to sleep. This is a family portrait with my Uncle Joe at its center, a tale told in a moving car, a story that made me lean in and listen.
When I'm walking down Main Street, baby, please don't treat me this way. I was walking down the street. Oh, the sky is crying. Let me see.
I think that was it.
Yeah. When I was born, baby. Oh, see, then it goes, the God's tune, it was one of them was,
My Uncle Joe was born on July 13th, 1933.
Oh, the sky is crying.
Born in the height of the Great Depression, Uncle Joe was the fourth and last son of Hi and Helen Rogers. My grandmother and grandfather began to notice that Joe was different from his three older brothers, my Uncle Dave, my father Mark, and my Uncle Len. Uncle Joe was diagnosed as mildly mentally retarded.
Oh, yeah, wait a minute. Oh, the sky is crying, and the tears roll down the street.
Then, at age 15, Uncle Joe was institutionalized at a state school in Waltham and then Templeton, Massachusetts. He was there for the next 28 years. He lives today in his own apartment in Quincy, Massachusetts. This is my Uncle Joe.
Oh, well. It'll soon be spring. Yeah.
March is taxes month.
Oh, my taxes are all done. I got my tax money back. So, my federal and state.
Started. How did you do that?
Well, in January I went into H&R Block and they did them up quick, and then I mailed them out. And then in February I got my state tax back, and then at the end of February I got my federal back. Because I did it early, because I wanted to get it out of the way. Because if you wait too long, then then the government will say, well, you have to, then you gotta pay more. Well, you're not gonna, I don't bother, because you'll get mad. My name is Joseph Rogers, and I live at Quincy Point, and I work at Friendly's, and I'm a dishwasher, and after I was born, we lived in Newton. We moved to Bellsmere Road, Newton Center, for 59 Bellsmere Road, near the John Ward School, And I used to go to kindergarten when I was 5 years old,
Somehow my mother had hoped, and my parents had hoped that Joe would be okay. So he went to a public school. He went to the same public school I did. He went to kindergarten there. And I guess you would say that, Joe was mildly retarded. I mean, he could speak quite well and reason, and he had a very good vocabulary.
I think it was a year that I went to the Mason School, I was sitting at the desk, and my mother walked in and she told my teacher, she said, my teacher's name was Grace Kennedy, and she said, well, I'm sorry, Grace, but my son won't be able to go here anymore to the school. So she took me out, and,
I had such a terrible feeling about it, like is this it for life? I mean, is he just, is he never going to be like, to progress like the rest of us? And what will happen?
And I asked the teacher, well, how come my mother won't let me go here anymore? And she said, well, I don't know. They said I don't know. She told my mother I was, I was a little slow. I couldn't keep up with the other kids, with the other students.
Joe was, of course, the last born, and he was 3 years younger than David, who is 5 years younger than I am. My parents worked very hard. My father ran a retail store, and he worked 6 days a week, and he rarely took vacation time.
He and a couple of brothers owned a series of chain stores, and they all went under in the 1930s. And so then he had one store, and he and my mother spent a lot of time in that store, and I was taking care of Joe.
They brought me to a school in Brookline called the Pollock School in Brookline, near Coolidge Garden Theater. And I didn't like that because they were mean. The people were awful mean. Yeah. Well, Mr. Pollock he used to use the razor strap, a big black belt, a razor strap. And if they heard any raising hell or anything, he'd come down with the razor strap, and boy, what a wailing, boy. Bang, bang, oh, boy.
It didn't work out, and it got increasingly difficult, and the adolescent years, and Joe felt the normal kind of sexual attraction to young women, and he couldn't manage those feelings very well, and it just got so difficult that even though my mother wanted to keep him at home very much, and she realized that wasn't possible.
So 1950, I left the school and went to Fernald. That was a little better, but the doors were locked. You were locked in. You couldn't get out. You could only go out with the staff for about 2 or 3 minutes and then come back in. I didn't like that.
We had a very close family friend who was attached to the Walter E. Fernald School, which had a place for retarded people, and so that's where Joe went.
Why were you at Fernald School?
Well, my mother said it was because I was mentally retarded. I was slow, and well, when they brought me there, my mother and father, they asked. Well, I guess one of the people asked my mother and father, well, why didn't you bring your son here? And she said, well, we're unable to take care of him. We can't take care of him, so we brought him here. Yeah.
Walter E. Fernald State School, Annual School Report. Joseph was very homesick and unhappy at first, would cry silently until he fell asleep in classes. The more delinquent boys found him open prey for teasing. After a time, Joseph asserted himself and fought back. He has gradually made a good adjustment to the institution. He is polite and friendly, sometimes laughs for no reason. When questioned, he says he is laughing at nothing, or because he is happy.
So I stayed from 50 until 51, and then I went up to Templeton and stayed there till 78, and then I got out and I made it to here. Yeah.
I'd say that one of the most traumatic experiences was when he left home and went to this institution. Joe wasn't nearly as retarded as most of the so-called clients in the institution. I mean, he had more in common with the staff than he did with the clients, and those were the the conversations that he had.
Hi. Yeah, we did theater. I used to be here. I'm just gonna visit with the. Well, I'm just gonna visit for a while. Then we're gonna leave.
You got permission and everything?
Yes, right, we just spoke.
Eddie, do you remember this man?
Do you? Hi. How
Do
are
you remember
you?
Ed?
I'm Joe. Oh yeah.
Joe.
You know.
How long has the censorship been gone from here?
Oh God. I left July 20th, 1978.
78?
Yeah.
So it's been 11 years since you've been here?
Yeah.
Is this the first time you visited?
Oh yeah.
My goodness, you shouldn't have taken so long.
Yeah.
What? You want that?
Well, I know.
Oh, lemon pie.
So the doctor told your mom and dad that
Yeah.
you'd have more freedom if you went to Templeton?
Yeah. I didn't like it. I wanted to go home.
What was it like to live at Templeton?
Yeah. Well, it was like a jail one way. It was like a prison. You know, you had to be in bed by 9 o'clock, and the lights had to be out at 9. And you couldn't play radios, and you couldn't, the night watch had to give you a count check at night, make sure everybody was in,
Home was with his family. Home was not there. And they tried to convince him otherwise at the institution, and he never accepted that definition.
And how would you describe Joe's relationship to his father?
Very close, very close. His father was such a loving person, a wonderful, caring person, very much of a family man.
My father, well, he died when he was 57, so he was young.
What did he die from?
Heart attack. Yeah. My father died out in the backyard. He was raking leaves, and my mother said, well, she said, Daddy died. I asked her, she came up to see me at Templeton with her brother Robert, and I said, where's my father? You didn't bring Daddy, and she said, she said that. Well, she didn't tell me till the last minute, So I said, she wanted to wait till I got home on my vacation for the summer, and then she said, Joe, Daddy died of a heart attack. He was raking leaves, and I asked how old he was, and she said 57. That was young.
I see your father over your shoulder there, photograph of him.
Yes. Yeah.
What was he like?
Oh, gosh, he was a wonderful man. Every time I think of him, I really...
Joe was at the time 20 years old when our father died. It was a terrible blow to all of us, and certainly to Joe. And Joe was very close to him, and they had a very, very loving kind of relationship.
Sunday, October 18th. Dear Helen, I've just heard the tragic news. There are no words. Such futility, a few years of sweetness mixed with pain, and now all seems in vain. You are such a beautiful human being, so mild, so sweet. You've asked so little of life, you've given so much. Try to remember the strength I gave to you. Find comfort in your fine boys. Remember that all that they are is the sum total of I and you. The integrity, the noble character of their beloved father is their heritage. They cannot fail you. His faith in life, in every tender, sweet thought, his pride in his children, you must certainly share and carry on in his spirit now. Ernie and I send to you our deep sympathy and love. Affectionately, Elsa.
What happens to people when they die?
Well, they go to heaven, their soul goes to heaven, and it's too bad, because I miss them, you know.
What's heaven like?
I wish I knew. To me it looks like, well, I told Sue what it looked like. I said, it looks like New Hampshire, very pretty, and mountains, and it could be, you know.
Well, I guess the changes I recall are changes I can't pinpoint in terms of time, but it did seem to me that as he was away, first at the Fernald School and then at Templeton, and I would see him from time to time, that our mother continued to look upon him as her little boy, and I think that held back his development.
Walter E. Fernald State School, Psychological Reports. This boy seems a thoroughly unfortunate individual, inferior in appearance, limited in comprehension, and possessed of a rather unattractive personality, though he obviously enjoys social interchange and initiates conversation at every opportunity. He rocks gently back and forth in his chair, staring straight before him. His speech is rapid and explosive. In general, the quality of his work is poor, but the distribution of credits is not typical of the level achieved, and he occasionally shows a surprising bit of creative thinking. In summary, the picture is a dismal one, with many weaknesses and no apparent strengths. Prognosis does not appear to be favorable.
Well, I was in Ward 19, see, with the younger kids, you know. So we had a line, so the staff person would stand at the edge of the stairway, you know. He'd say, okay, you can go down, you know. You had to get out in single file, you know. And then they'd place you where to sit, and, you know. He'd say, okay, you sit over here at this table, you sit on that table, you know. I felt like, just taking off and say, you know, this place isn't for me.
And he'd run away a couple of times from both institutions out of a sense of just being desperate to get out.
I once noticed one of the patients with my dungarees on. I say, excuse me, buddy, but you're wearing my clothes. How come? Those are my dungarees, not yours. No, they're not. I got those in my bundle. Those aren't yours. Oh, yes, they are mine. I'll prove they're mine. My mother bought them for me. You know what the staff used to do? They used to cross my name off and put their name on them. I told my mother that, you know. Oh, that's what they do. So they cross your name off and put their name on, huh? Okay. All right. Okay, I'm going to straighten this out. You wait. Oh. Then she told one of the staff, how come? She told one of the head staff. My mother said, either he wears his clothes I buy, or you're going to get fired down the road. You know. And the staff, and boy, their faces turned red when my mother told them that.
She was the real caretaker of Joe during those early years when my father was working all the time. And after he died, her life was basically devoted to Joe.
And it was very difficult because my mother felt that there was nothing else for him. She felt guilt or whatever, fearful for him, that it would be inappropriate for him ever to live in the outside world. He couldn't do it.
But the cooks were awful rude. They were awful snobs, you know. I walked in the kitchen and I said to the cooks, I said good morning to them, and they just sat there and they wouldn't answer. I said, So what I did is, they didn't like what I did to cooks. I took my fist and I pounded on the table, and then they really hard, and then they said, "What was that for?" I said, "Well, that's because you didn't say, that's because the other cooks just sat there and ignored me. They wouldn't say good morning." Do you know a Ray Bullock?
Yeah. He'll be here tomorrow. No, he won't either.
Is he a big?
He's off Friday and Saturday.
Yeah. Is he a big, tall guy? Really?
Yeah, bald in here.
I didn't like what the cooks used to say. They used to say to me, "Oh, you'll never make it outside. Yeah, you wouldn't be able to handle the job." I said, "Well, I'll show you up, and I'll show you people," and I did. No, I'm on my own. I'm living in Quincy Point on my own.
In a halfway house or alone?
No. I live in a studio apartment, a bedroom, kitchen, and a bathroom.
And you work out?
Yeah, I work at Friendly's at Wollaston.
Oh.
Yeah, next to Quincy. It's
That's
right.
nice.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I may want to come back maybe someday. I don't know.
You miss it?
You know, the way it is now, it's better because. Oh, I didn't miss it when I got out. No. Because
You had enough.
Yeah, but now it looks like it's like a real home. And, you know.
This is the, right here.
Well,
Doreen.
let's.
Oh, yeah, Mrs. Robichaud. Do you remember Mrs. Robichaud?
Yeah.
Worked in the dining room?
Yeah.
Yeah, she just left about an hour ago. You just missed her.
Oh. Well, I enjoyed meeting my old friends that I haven't seen for a long time.
That's nice. Well, we'll certainly tell them you were here.
Yeah. You tell Dot Fluff and Ray Bullock and Pete that I said hi, and I'll come and visit them someday, maybe during the week. And,
That would be nice.
All right. Yeah.
Take care.
All right. Thank you. We'll go.
Joe left Templeton twice, once in 1978 and again in the fall of 1989. As I left with him, the ghosts of the institution became memory. In 1976, Joe's mother, my grandmother, had a stroke from which she never recovered. It was shortly thereafter that Joe took the steps to leave Templeton. His mother loved him as a mother loves a child. She was desperately afraid of what would happen to him in the outside world.
Excuse me, I'm looking. I don't know. I'm mixed up. I'm on.
What do you need?
I'm just looking for where they have the men's, the men's chino pants and the work pants.
Oh yeah, that's right over here in the work warehouse.
Like the 3830s and the 28s. I don't know. I'm either lost or something.
We changed everything around probably since the last time you were in.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, the dark green, we're discontinuing the dark green. We don't have a lot.
Yeah, see, like that. See that color there. What color green is that?
Well, that's the light poplin green, which is this one here.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I don't mean that color green. I mean another color
Darker?
green.
Darker?
Almost like, sort of a grass green, like.
I think there's some in the back, Jim.
Oh, yeah, would you check for me, Pete?
What size? 3828?
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
How about a pair of tan? Khaki.
No, I don't like tan that well. No.
Good summer color.
I think you might find green in the back.
Okay, we'll wait.
Yeah. And I might want to buy, dungarees too. I saw Levi's then. Yeah. This will be a birthday present from you, and then the next time I'll buy them, because,
Looks like that cup is collapsing. Do you want me to throw it out for you?
No, I haven't finished it yet.
Okay.
Too full.
Yeah.
That's what they wear at work, these, yeah, Friendly's wears these colors. Yeah,
Friendly's wears blue now?
Oh, they've always wore those colors. Well, when I
They had brown.
years ago, but
Is that what, yeah, it's been a
now
while
they've
since I've been in
changed.
Friendly's.
Yeah, now they...
Updated their
Is
fashion.
that, what color is that?
That's the lightweight. It's 3829 though. I don't know if that's the right
But don't,
size.
yeah, but wouldn't you have well, what is that, a poplin green?
Yeah, it's the lightweight.
Well, wouldn't you have a darker green than that?
I checked. This is all that we had left.
No, forget it. That's
okay.
all right. No, it's okay. I know what I really want. I'll find, I don't know. No, I just want, where was I again? Let me see, no, forget it. You can't find it. Don't make it big. Let me see. What. Let's see. Because this is just a birthday present.
Yeah, early birthday present.
All right, yeah.
Okay, what else needs to do is fill this pot out down the bottom.
Okay, you take this?
Yep, and it just takes a
I
couple
don't
of
want
minutes.
to read
Okay.
this,
5 minutes.
See, this is just a birthday present, see, but next time I'll be a little more independent and do it myself, see.
That's a
Because I don't like,
Celebrate a little bit.
I don't believe in taking advantage of people, A birthday present, that's different, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I do too. I love them. They're so conservative.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. This is your birthday.
Yeah, see. Thank you. I appreciate
Happy
it.
birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday, Joe.
Thank
You
you.
can just sign
How do
one
you
line.
say it in German? Happy birthday. What is it?
Man muss sich überlegen. Alles Gute zum Geburtstag.
How would you say see as in Roebuck in German?
See what?
See as in Roebuck. How would you say it
What
in
is
German?
this? Sears and
No,
Roebuck.
no, see as
Yeah.
Roebuck. How would you say it in
Sears
German?
Roebuck.
Yeah.
Just that way.
Yeah, probably
Just that way.
Then there's Sprechen Sie Deutsch. What
Yeah,
does
yeah.
that mean? That's what the
You
Germans
speak
do.
German, yeah.
Yeah,
Sprechen Sie Deutsch.
yeah. I know a few of them, but not.
Where did you learn it?
I
Just picked it up?
yeah, a few words. Yeah, that's what the food. Yeah. Happy to I'm some. Oh no, it's not. No, it didn't yet. It didn't. No, it didn't come yet. It comes all over now. Boy. No.
Were you expecting anything?
Well, my cousin always sends me $50 in the mail for my birthday, but
Pretty good deal.
yeah, because he wants me to buy a present,
Yeah. Are you pretty psyched about your birthday?
Yeah, 57 next week. Yeah.
So Joe then went through a series of steps. He'd be at the institution, but he'd be out working all day. And then finally he was able to leave the institution and be in a kind of protected home with 8 other clients in the Quincy area. He lived there, and there was a social worker and a young couple who kind of supervised.
The only thing I didn't like is when the staff said, if we were going out like 8 o'clock, they would say, be back by 10 o'clock, and if you came back late, they wouldn't like it, they'd give you hell if you came back late. Then they'd have a meeting the next night, Then the guy would take you in the living room and shut the door, both doors. And there were sliding doors, and he'd shut them so nobody would hear what he was saying. So he said, what time are you supposed to be in? I said, last night I said 10 o'clock. Well, how come you were late? And I said, well, I told him I was sorry. So I did say to him, I said, what is this getting like Templeton, where I just got out of? My God, this is like an institution, isn't it? I said, this is like going from one institution to another, you know. And I told them, I said, listen, I want my freedom. When I want to go out, I'll go out, and I'll come back when I want to come back, you know. So that was that, you know.
Then when we saw that Joe actually found several jobs on his own, not through the program that he was in, through the Massachusetts mental health program, whatever it was, the state ran, but Joe found several jobs on his own initiative.
And that was the beginning of a totally new life for him, in our opinion. And I think it's worked out extremely well for him, although it hasn't gone without its trials and tribulations.
Jesus. No, this paycheck was last week. Yeah, I was at work last week. The paycheck this week was for last week, right? But next week, I'll get the paycheck for 30 hours, right? Next week, I'll get my check for 30 hours. Ah, boy, I don't know. See, sick of the way it works. Oh my God. Where did, oh, come on, guys. Oh, I broke my shoelace.
Can you drive back together?
No. Oh boy. I'll have to get some. Oh, brother. Oh boy.
You know, remember the other day we were at the House of Pancakes?
Yeah.
We were talking about this idea of whatever it means, mentally retarded.
Yeah.
Does that mean anything to you?
Well, I don't know what mental meant, crazy, but that's what mental used to mean, crazy, you know. Like if you pick something up and throw it, that would be crazy, wouldn't it? That's mental, yeah.
How about the other part?
Retarded, well, that means slow. That means slow learning. Yeah. No, I don't know how mentally retarded could mean crazy learning. I mean, no. Wait. What is the authorized? I think we're something, you don't know. Earnings, taxes. Well, they don't take. Well, that's good. Well, they don't take 2120. That's stupid. See, that's what I should get. I should get 281.87. That's what I should get the next page. Not this. Oh, here comes the bus. They didn't make shoelaces that never break, you know, and then make a movie, the shoelaces that never break. I wonder if that's it. No. See, they don't have a sign. You never know when. Years ago, they had words like feeble-minded, you know. They used to put like they'd say, on the sign, when I first went there, it was called Walter E. Fernald State School for the Feeble-Minded, you know. But I don't know what feeble means. Feeble means old, doesn't it? Very, very old, you know. Like, I don't know, the word, I don't know how they ever use that word as a feeble, you know. But wouldn't feeble-minded mean, well, feeble-minded, like if somebody tells you something, you know, and you get mad and, you know, and you throw things, so that would be feeble-minded. That would be crazy, wouldn't it? Feeble-minded. I don't know, that's the way they used it, you know. Yeah.
Feeble-minded, mental deficients, backward children, mentally retarded, these are all terms used so that we can understand them. The stories Joe tells, though, are the ways I have learned to understand him.
This young girl walked up to me and she said...
In the spring of 1990,
just got out of high school.
we drove to a family reunion. There were more stories to tell.
I can remember she had blonde hair, short, you know. She must have been about at least 17 or 18. I don't know how old. And she walked up to me and she said, would you walk me home to my house? I said, sure, why not? I said, well, my name is Joe, and I said, oh, I'll be glad to walk you home, sure. And and then she told me what the story was. She said, well, there was a kid on the bus that was threatening me and, threatening you around. Well, I said, okay, I'll walk you home. I'll see that you get safely home. So I walked in the house with her. She had locked the door, and we walked in, and, so we sat down on the sofa, if I remember, and she asked me, she said, gee, Joe, she said, I appreciate it that you walked me home. And she said, then the girl asked me, well, what about Sunday night? What are you doing Sunday night? I said, well, I'll be home Sunday night, And I could remember she asked me, she said, well, could we meet, would you like to go out on a date Sunday night? I said, boy, yeah, I wouldn't mind. Well, I'd like to, Well, I told the good news to my father, Father, looks like Dad, I got my first date Sunday night with this girl, I said, well, would you mind, Dad, if she took me out on a date? And he said, it's okay by me. Then my father asked my mother, he said, Ellen, Joe's going out on his first date tonight. Would you mind? And she says, I wouldn't mind. She said, go ahead, Joe. It's all right. You might meet somebody good. She might be nice to you. And I said, okay. So I don't know what happened. I went up in my room. I don't know what happened. I just didn't go out of the house. I don't know why. I felt kind of scared. I said, should I go out or should I? I said to myself, I don't know. I don't know what she's going to do, I don't know if she'll be nice to me or if she'll hurt me or anything, But in those days, nobody hurt anybody. I was a little paranoid, I didn't know whether I should have went out or stayed in, but what is love?
Yeah.
Well, love is when you put your arms around a girl. That shows love. Yeah. And when you kiss her and stuff like that, that's love. Yeah. That's as far as I know. Yeah. I did know, I knew what Mother said one day, I think before I went to Fernald School, me and my mother were cleaning outside, and, we were cleaning outside, we were raking the leaves outside, and my mother said, did you ever go out with this girl? I said, Mother, no. And then my mother said, Joe, she said, if I were you, she said, I would get married. If I were you, my mother. Yeah. My mother said, what you ought to do is find a girl, get married. And I said, yeah, I should. I said to her, well, you're right, Mother, I should. I wouldn't mind getting married today, Yeah, but... Oh, yeah. Then my mother said after that, she said, well, what kind of a girl would you suggest that I marry? And she said, well, my mother said, well, Joe, you're a little handicapped, so what I suggest is, marry a girl, that's about like you, sort of a handicapped type. And I said, well, so I felt a little bad. I felt bad. I said, well, I said, oh, Mother, I can just picture myself marrying a handicapped person. Oh my God. I was going to say, Mother, I would like to marry a normal person, you know, because I didn't know what handicap was, you know. In those days, handicap was a big thing, you know. They made a big thing out of it, you know. Oh boy. God, I remember going to Fernald School, and the doctor at the main office said, you know, my mother and father walked me in, and she said, this is Joseph Rogers, my son, and we brought him in, you know. He was being admitted to Fernald, you know, State School, and today's the day we brought him in, and so I guess it was a social worker, you know, and, you know, what was her name? Dr. Muldoon, you know, she, a redheaded girl, you know. I don't know, she said funny things to my mother and father. She says, Mr. and Mrs. Rogers, she says, I just can't believe to think that you bring your son to a place like this, you know. So my mother and father said, well, I'm sorry, doctor, but what can we do? We can't take care of him, you know, my husband and I have to work, and, you know, so I don't know. Then Dr. Muldoon said, well, I think, well, the way I looked at it, to me, he looked like a right normal person, you know. Why should he be here, you know? I think he should be out getting a job for himself, getting married, you know, and when I heard that, I said to my mother, gee, Mother, isn't he right? I think the doctor's right, 100% right, you know.
Do you think it was a mistake for you to be in Fernald and Templeton?
I seem to think so. I thought so, yeah.
A year after Joe left, I got quite ill, and I was sick for several years, and those things are, you know, sort of complicated, but as to how they come about. But I think that part of the reason was that I had all these feelings that I had kind of dammed up that I wasn't able to express about not about loving my brother, but not wanting to sort of spend all this time being a substitute parent for my brother. When my friends were out having a good time, wherever they were out having a good time. And I wouldn't want to blame that on Joe or blame it on my parents or whatever, but I would say that was a kind of, you know, that was the downside of that experience for me. On the other side, I think I developed a wonderful, close relationship that I value very highly, and I developed a very deep understanding from direct experience of what it's like to have a situation like Joe had, to be born with some degree of handicap, retardation that society stigmatizes.
You want me to lock the door?
No.
Okay. Oh, boy. Thank the Lord.
Hey, Joe! How are ya?
Good.
Nice to see you. Thanks for coming.
You're welcome.
Hi, Joe.
Hi.
Joe. How are you? Nice
Hi.
to see you.
Good
to see you.
Thank you.
Hi, Val. See, I took a deal with Florida. I didn't realize it.
What is your favorite thing that you want to do?
do something famous, you know, be a famous man. You know, I'd like to see my name on the ledger 50 years from now. Joseph is one of women, because I'd like to see 50 years from now, Joseph C. Rogers died at the age of, no, I'd like to see it say Joseph C. Rogers, son of Mr. and Mrs. son of Mr. and Mrs. Herman Rogers, celebrating his 104th birthday. Wouldn't that be nice?
That would be wonderful. What would you do on your 104th birthday?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know what my hair would look like or what I would look like. Well, I'd probably have a beard and a mustache and maybe.
Terrific.
What'd you do, Joe?
No, I just changed the color because
Just change the color? Yeah.
it was getting kind of gray, so
How are you?
that was 85.
Do you know there are people here that I haven't seen for 20 years, and if I haven't seen them, you haven't.
No.
See, like those two people there? Susan, you know Susan?
They said it will last, this color will last all year long.
All year long?
Yeah.
Oh, very good, Joe. That's terrific.
This is a chance for you to speak to an awful lot of people. This tape is going to be seen by an awful lot of people.
Where?
It's going to be seen on television.
Will I be on television? When?
I don't know. When would you like to be on?
Will I be on Channel 2? Oh, anytime. It doesn't matter.
What do you think now that the day is practically finished? Think it's been successful?
Yeah.
Good.
You think we ought to do it again?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I think so.
Any
too.
suggestions what we ought to do? I mean, did we, not do some things that we ought to do, or?
No.
The only thing we didn't have is we didn't have a piano rendition from you, Joe.
Yeah, we missed that.
yeah.
I was kind of looking forward to Joe playing us a little musical selection, and we didn't
play something over here.
Morton has a. Where is? Oh, it's over there. I guess.
Yeah, the electronic piano.
The electronic piano.
Yeah, maybe
I'll
we should
try.
Is there anything you'd like to tell people?
Yeah, I could talk about music, I could say I like music, I like blues and jazz, and I'll just say I like May Kramer's show on Friday night and Saturday night, and I listen to Jazz Gallery I like that, I would just tell him, well, I'd like to meet May Kramer some Friday night. If I didn't care, I hope so. Would it be the same to you? If I didn't care, would it be the same to you? Oh, honey child, if I didn't care. Would it be the same to me if I didn't care?
Yeah, right.
For a long time, my Uncle Joe and many people like him were separated from us in institutions. Now, he has become my teacher.
Great, Joe. All right. Good. You're okay.
As my Uncle Joe plays, he teaches me how to listen. He teaches me that that we are not simply observers of each other. We watch, we listen, and we become a part of the music. Sometimes it's a melancholy ballad, sometimes it's blues, sometimes it swings, but it's always ours.
That's good, see? Yeah.